Hi everyone, I'm Lee Meagle. I'm the editor here at the Web Host Industry Review, and I would like to welcome you all to another one of our WHIR webinars. Today's session is called Getting Smart About Web Hosting Bundles, a Blueprint for Success, and it's going to feature a presentation from David Abramowski, who is Vice President of Marketing at Infratel. I'll let David introduce himself a little more thoroughly in a moment, but before we go any further, I would like to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, you may have questions during the session, and feel free to submit them using the webinar software throughout. We're going to actually save some time at the end to actually address the questions, and I'll put them to David then, but I'll be keeping an eye on them throughout, and you certainly can submit them during the session. If you do ask a question and it doesn't get answered either because we ran out of time or maybe it's a bit too specific, rest assured that we will have a record of all the questions that were asked and who asked them, and we'll be able to reach out to you after the fact via email to handle your questions specifically. Or similarly, if you have a question that you'd rather ask outside of a public forum like this, there will be some contact info on screen during the Q&A, so you can definitely reach out that way. David also said that he'd be happy to share the slides with you after the fact, so if you want to get a copy of those, you can reach out to him directly. Or, as always, there will be a video archive of the webinar available. If you want to revisit a slide or a part of the presentation and or share it with somebody else, it'll be in the archives at thewhir.com/webinars as of early next week, and it'll be there alongside of a lot of our other great past webinars, so definitely worth a look. And now, without further ado, I will turn things over to David, and we can get things started.
Great. Well, thank you, Liam, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Let me bring the screen to the presentation here. As Liam said, I am David Abramowski, and I'll talk a little bit more about who I am a little bit further in this presentation, but what I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk to you about web hosting bundles and all of the different pieces to the puzzle, I guess you could say, that are starting to come knocking on your front door, and I wanted to help hosters with our experience and help you kind of put together a framework for how you look at the different offerings that are out there. And so today's presentation, we're going to kind of break it up into, I guess, 4 different sections. First, we'll talk about bundles and what's happening in the industry. Second, we'll talk about a blueprint that you can actually follow and map out for yourself. As a matter of fact, one thing I do suggest, if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil in front of you, you might want to grab one so that you can kind of create your own blueprint. And then we'll talk about some of the pitfalls that we've seen as a company. And then finally, we'll look at a real-world example, of course, using one of our products at Infratel. So hopefully this will be an interactive session that will let you walk away with a useful tool that you can then use within your own business to help grow your business itself. So I don't need to go real deep into this, since this is basically a web hosting industry group. So but we all know why we care about web hosting bundles. We care about it because bundles allow us to offer more services to our existing customers. They allow us to not only grow revenue, but to extend into other areas. So hosting bundles are very important, and they're even more important as we continue to look at the adoption of cloud services through the SMB marketplace. And basically, if you're familiar with AMI partners and their worldwide SMB routes to market model, what they are talking about here is that not only in 2012, but as we look beyond, that SMBs, the small and mid-sized businesses, they're really looking towards the cloud services providers to take over and to deliver cloud services to the small business. And as you see here, in 2012, they're estimating that half of the $34 billion market in the U.S. is going to go through hosters. And this is very important because as we look and we continue to go down the path here, as you see in the chart 2012, 2013, out through 2016, that the spend on cloud services continues to grow, but the spend at hosters or through hosters also continues to grow. And it's not just an increase in the existing services that you have today, like shared web hosting or VPSs or things of that nature. This is the growth of different services that help to drive the small business into new market spaces or into new competitive arenas with larger companies. And so it's very important that as an industry, that hosters and service providers start to really think about those different categories of products that they can offer to their existing customers, or they can offer to attract new customers into the fold. So I think the title of this slide is it's definitely a misquote. I don't know if people know that, but I think the original quote was something like "There's millions in it," but we all like to hear the quote, "There's gold in them there hills," and that's really why we want to focus in on bundles and why we want to help hosters extend their bundles. So if you read that report from AMI Partners, basically they boil it down to some strategic advice. And I think this is pretty standard strategic advice that we get at the high level. And basically what they say is that you should be looking to create easy-to-deploy cloud offerings in attractively priced bundles which increase potential service uptake significantly. Yeah, okay, I'd agree to that. But I don't think that's actionable. I don't think that helps us really decide out of the dozens or hundreds of alternatives out there which ones really should we choose as a hosting provider, whether you're a small hoster or you're a reseller or you're a larger hoster. How do you choose the different pieces of the bundle? And that's what I want to help you with today. I want to kind of help you put together a little framework that helps you avoid some of the common pitfalls that we've seen at Infratel as an ISV. And we want to make sure that, if you choose bundles or you choose different pieces, that they're going to be successful for your business. So let's talk about the downside of making bad choices or not making a choice at all. We all have customers, whether you're a hoster, whether you're a service provider, whether you're an ISV like our company. And the number one thing that you have to avoid are unhappy customers, because when you have unhappy customers, you not only lose revenue, but you also lose word-of-mouth marketing, and you have problems with adoption, and you also have some problems around opportunity cost. And really what ends up happening is if you make bad choices and you put together bundles that don't make sense or that you can't support as a company, what ends up happening, and these are the things that are kind of in gray, which are, you waste a good deal of money on, I want to just call them useless campaigns. And we'll look at some examples of that in just a moment. But you can also expose that you have competitive weaknesses by having either no bundles or bad bundles. You can have high customer turnover, and nobody wants that, because you spend a lot of money as it is to get customers for your core offerings, and the last thing you want to do is create a bundle or create a situation where you have actually pushed away customers because of your add-ons. And of course, we don't want to lose time. There's this time to market. There's an opportunity for us to really stake our claim to this new gold rush, and I think it's important that we make decisions as an industry quickly, add those into our systems, and make it so that we can start to offer new packages or new bundles or new services to our customers. Now, the upside of making good choices, of kind of planning this out a little bit in advance and using a little bit of brain power here, is that we create happy customers. And by creating happy customers, the reason I say we can create happy customers through good choices in our bundles is that we provide value. We bring value to the bundles that help that customer, whether it's a small business running their business or it's someone who's a web hoster, someone who's running a website. We help them run those websites better, faster, cheaper. That's what it takes to keep customers happy, to meet their expectations, to provide them to go above and beyond. And making good decisions on your bundling really can have a positive impact to this. It can help you to reduce the churn by adding certain add-ons that are, let's just say that they're very sticky, so that it creates a loyalty between that customer and your business. It's not as simple as just swapping out and moving to a host or another provider because they're less expensive or they provided an extra perk. So we want to do that with our bundles. We want to be able to pull people together. We want to be able to reduce that churn and keep them embedded in your business. And the other thing we want to do with the bundles is we want to increase ARPU so that that average revenue per user goes up over time. So you may have people who currently spend $9, $10, $15 a month, and if you took that exact same audience and you got them spending $30, $40, $50 a month, your business would continue to grow exponentially. And so that's what we want to do, is we want to make good choices so that we can have these happy customers, reduce the churn, and increase the ARPU. And it all yields, over on the right-hand side here, the dollar signs. Right? And that's what we're all in business for, is we're in business to make money and to grow our businesses. So let's look at a little bit about why we created this blueprint. So myself and Brian Good, some of you may know Brian. Brian is the CEO of Infratel. He also has a pretty good history in the hosting industry. Brian used to work for Parallels for, I think, 5 or 6 years. And based upon that, Brian really spent a lot of time, and as well as myself, I spent a lot of time in the hosting industry. And between the two of us, we basically sat down a couple weeks ago and started to sketch out a way that we can help hosters to evaluate different add-ons. And what we wanted to do is we kind of looked at the biggest train wrecks that we knew in our history and some of the biggest successes, and we started by establishing a criteria to filter different add-ons, filter different things that you can add to your packages. And then we wanted to make it so that it was a repeatable process for prioritization, so that not only could you choose if they're good, but which ones should go first, which ones should go second, etc. And then we wanted to help you reduce the likelihood of failure. So that's what we came up with here. And as I show you this, and I guess before I even finish that, that thought is kind of why should you listen to us? Well, who are we, and who is Infratel, and why are we thinking that we have the ability to tell you this? Well, Infratel as a company is a cloud-based professional phone presence solution, and it's specifically for the SOHO market, the small office, the home office, and our objective is to basically create a solution that is easily delivered through partners like you to the small business community. We're headquartered in Seattle, Washington, and as a company we have a rich history in global call center solutions, and we support more than 1,000 customers globally and manage over 1 billion call minutes a year for those people. So we have a good history in kind of our core technology as a company, and then as an executive staff, so myself and Brian and our investors, we have a deep experience in the service provider market. And so we're bringing that, so Brian and I are bringing kind of that background and that knowledge into this ability to work with small businesses. And that's kind of the basis for which we form all this. So that we have a product that we can talk to you about later on, and we have some of the history and some of the experience that basically helps us explain to you some of the things that we've seen throughout the market. So let's go ahead and look through this. Now, I called it a blueprint, but yes, it looks like a funnel. I'm not a good artist myself, so I have to use stock arts, and this was the best thing I found to represent this concept. So this might be something interesting for you to do, is go ahead and draw something similar to this on that piece of paper I asked you to grab. And we'll have these 4 different filters. And hopefully once we get through this, we'll understand a way to filter out the add-ons and determine which is the highest priority. So the first thing we want to look at when you are considering adding to your bundles or creating a bundle, and you're looking at third-party add-ons or additional products that you can kind of put inside of that, is to really pay attention to the business model fit of that add-on. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me give you a couple different points here. So there's two different pieces to business model fit. So there's the sales model on one hand. And many of you have created businesses where your sales model is low touch, high volume. It's all about getting people to act on their own behalf and buying products through advertisements, through relationships, those kind of things, so that it's a very very automated business. Then there's other business models out there where you're doing solution selling with more complex sales cycles, and then there's blended models where you have some assisted selling. So at the top level on your paper there, you maybe just jot down what you do. What is your business model? What is your sales model? Is it low touch, high volume, or is it something different? And go ahead and put that up at the top of your funnel. And then the other half of this layer is understanding your support model. And a lot of companies, again, if they're doing low touch, high volume business, for example, they're basically really focusing on products for ease of use and that have customer self-service. They really don't have a huge reliance on their own call center or their own support team to make sure that every single customer has to be touched to get up and running. And then you have other businesses, and this may be yours, where your differentiator is these custom services and consulting and the hands-on capabilities. So it's really good at the very top level to just kind of define who you are as a business to better understand your business model fit. Now the next level down is when we're evaluating putting together packages or these bundles, is to kind of look at each piece in that bundle and make sure that it's related to the core business. So when we look at third-party products, is that add-on related to your core offerings? And this is important because if it's not related to your core business, then it's not going to make sense to your target audience. And if it doesn't make sense to your target audience, they're not going to be interested in it. So you have to have that kind of initial, connection to the core business to kind of pull along these different elements, or to make your bundle basically valuable, more and more valuable. Now, the other piece of this is kind of, I talk about friction. You see their second bullet here. It says what type of friction exists between your core offering and your add-on. And by friction, I mean, how difficult is it, or how far of a leap is it for the person who is invested or interested in your core offering for them to use this add-on? So is it something completely different? Does it require, another system, another login, all those different things? It's really good to understand, what the friction is. And this helps you understand if that item is easily related to your core business or not. At the next level down, basically what we're looking at here is if your buyers actually care about the elements that you're adding into your bundles. So you may give them a free coupon, for example, for Facebook advertising, but if their target audience doesn't use Facebook, then they really are not going to care about that add-on, about that extra piece of your bundle. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we look at the different buyers that you have available to you, so segmenting out your user base, is does the add-on solve an identifiable problem for any of those specific target markets? So really looking at this and understanding if the problem solves a relevant issue for the customer base. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but there's this concept of vitamin versus aspirin. And vitamins are nice to haves, and aspirins are things that people are going to buy right away to get rid of that headache. And what we want to do is we really want to always think about add-ons or augmentations to our bundles as, is it a vitamin? Is it a nice to have, or is it an aspirin? Is it something that really makes that bundle, that higher priced offering valuable? And we want to make sure that at Infratel that our products are always the aspirin. Right? We're always solving problems that are very painful for people, and then you have to make sure that all relates to your core business and it fits your business model, right? And finally, the last piece of the filter, or of this blueprint, is really taking a look to see if the add-on, or understanding if the add-on itself helps you bridge to a new market opportunity. So this is kind of interesting. So if it's something that's related to your core business, how does it bridge to a new market opportunity? There are solutions out there, and this is actually where you can get the biggest bang for your buck, is that if you have basically a solution that fits the rest of the model, and then it also allows you to establish your business as an option in another market space, that can be very powerful for you. And it's an opportunity to extend your brand and to really build your revenue at a pace that's not organic, it's not step by step. It could be very exponential on the growth, and we've seen some really good examples of that throughout our time in the hosting industry. So that's the blueprint. That's how we want to help guide you to filter through these different add-ons, these different ways to build your bundles, your hosting packages. And what I'd like to do now is kind of just take a little quick detour into the top 5 pitfalls that Brian and I have seen as we've been working with lots of hosters over the years. I think Brian was throwing out some anecdotes. He thinks he's personally worked with over 1,000 hosters and have seen most of the disasters that could happen. And so let's talk about a few of those to make sure that they're top of mind. And it might be very obvious to you, but I think it's always good to kind of talk through these to make sure that we don't fall into these traps ourselves. So number 1 here on the pitfalls is don't spend your time and money on solutions that don't fit into your business. And this is directly related to the top piece of that funnel. And if you don't have that good product market fit or that good business model fit, you're just going to be really spinning your wheels and wasting your time and money. And a good example for this is some solutions that came out a couple of years ago where they were trying to push ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, for the small office, home office. Now think about that. The small office, home office people don't really spend a lot of time behind the computer. They're not going to really program everything into warehousing systems because it's probably a box of goods sitting on a shelf in their garage to get started. So there wasn't a really good fit around trying to push these solutions into this really small market space, this market of small businesses. And the result was companies had spent a lot of time and money to integrate in these ERP offerings, and there ended up being no interest, no adoption, and the result was just really a significant waste of time and money for hosting providers. So that's just an example, and we want to make sure that we avoid that and make sure that products have that really good business model fit. The second piece is kind of, it's still talking about that top level of the funnel. It's talking about the support side, and this is a post-sale issue. So one of the things that we've seen is that companies offer solutions where they're just really unable to meet the support requirements of the customer. And here's a good example is complex hosted PBX or what they call VoIP phone systems. If your business is not set up to handle this, it could be very disastrous for you. When you look at some of these complex solutions, they require hardware and software and network upgrades and issues with internet connectivity, and so there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. And the more complex they are, then if you look back at your model, you have to make sure that your model can handle that, or your business can handle that complexity. If not, if you're a high volume business and you decide to take on a complex solution and add it to one of your bundles or add it as an offering, then the result is going to be a lot of customer dissatisfaction because you're just not going to be able to service them properly. Your support costs will be continuously escalating, and you could even have a negative impact to your core business. So we just wanted to bring that up and make sure that that's something that you thought about. And one of the top pitfalls I see quite often at this point in time is that companies want to lead with add-ons and kind of try and create a new market around the add-on. And unfortunately, this doesn't really work. And I've got several case studies where I can talk about this, but basically you have things where the partner will bring on an add-on and they will try to go to market as the seller of that add-on. Well, what you have to realize is that there's lots of other partners or lots of other industries that may be reselling or offering that product out of context or in their own context. And you end up basically going head-to-head with lots of other resellers at an undifferentiated level. And what that means is that you end up spending a lot of time and money and cycles competing in an area where you're just one of yet another company offering that. So you really have to find your competitive differentiators as you bundle together multiple products. And what we suggest is that you don't use add-ons to drive specifically after new business, is that you use these add-ons to enhance your existing offerings, to move existing customers up the ladder. So if they're spending more money with you, you're increasing ARPU, and then over time you'll be acquiring new customers because of these differentiators or these new capabilities that you have. Now, number 4 here on the pitfalls to avoid is make sure that you know your ability to reach your audience. This may sound common sense, but I've actually run into this a couple times where companies or hosters, maybe these are a little bit larger hosters, but they're unable to execute on the marketing plans that they had because they didn't realize that their own terms and conditions prevented them from offering third-party offering, or from talking about third-party offerings, or for communicating with their customer on different levels. And the result of this pitfall is I've seen companies that end up having pretty significant delays in their program execution. So they do the work to integrate the product, they do the work on the billing and provisioning systems, they make it all, they test it, they make sure it all works, they train their support teams, and then they find out that they're stuck in legal because they're unable to send out their campaigns or send out those direct mail pieces or communicate on a regular basis with their customers. So a lot of missed opportunity when this happens. So make sure you put that on your checklist, that you can reach out to your audience, that you can get to them, and that you're not breaking any of your own rules as a company. Now, one of the other pitfalls, the last point here, is that we see companies who really aren't consistent, and they think of add-ons or they think of bundles as kind of like, do you want fries with that? And one of the issues we see with that is that most add-ons really aren't one-time upsells in the moment. You have to really determine your long-term approach early and make sure that you're not just trying to stuff in an add-on after the fact. One of the examples of this is a company that we work with that basically what they wanted to do was offer the add-on post-sale via an email message for a third-party product or for an add-on. It didn't really work for them because the buyer had just completed a purchase of the core solution, and they're really focused on getting that working first. And even though the product fit the business model and was related, the customer didn't really need it at that point in time. And this was the only point in time or in the cycle that this add-on was being offered, and it kind of fell short because, like I said, it really wasn't getting the attention of the buyer at that time. So there were little to no results on that offer and had very low open rates and even lower conversion rates. So that's kind of the pitfalls that I think we wanted to bring up and make sure we're top of mind for everybody. All right. So now what I'd like to do is help you establish your own blueprint. So on that piece of paper where you sketch this out, hopefully you've put in what your business model fit is, and maybe you've listed out what your core businesses are. So are you do you provide shared web hosting, VPSs? Do you provide dedicated servers, etc.? And then if you have different specific markets that you look at, so under that do your buyers care, first you have to define who your buyers are. So what I do is I just draw a little circle and put in the different types of buyers that I could subset in my business. So maybe you have small business, you have SOHO, you have entrepreneurs, you have technologists, you have early adopters, and so that just kind of helps you set up your own blueprint. All right, so now let's just walk through an example of an add-on of course, I'm going to use one of our products here at Infratel. And we can walk through this model to kind of see how it works and how it fits. So at Infratel, we have a product called the InfraCloud Receptionist with ClickConnect. And ClickConnect is basically a web click-to-call capability that embeds on websites. So, and the rest of the product, InfraCloud Receptionist, it's a professional phone service for small businesses, or phone system for small businesses. And here's kind of what it does on the right-hand side. It's not really important to really driving through the model, but it allows a small business or an entrepreneur to get a business phone number, a toll-free number, has an auto attendant with personalized greetings, can have different greetings during the business day, different greetings at night. It can route calls to mobile phones. Basically uses all your existing equipment. You don't have to change anything to kind of layer this professional call system on top of a small business, right? And then one of the features of this solution is this thing called website click-to-call. And so that's basically the product itself. So when we look at the business model fit, when we look at InfraCloud Receptionist, it's really built for companies who do high volume, low touch, self-service offerings. That's kind of how I would evaluate the business model fit for this add-on. So if your business is high volume, low touch, self-service, this type of product would fit. And then when we talk about does it connect to your core offerings, well, as we look at hosting providers and we look at whether it's shared web hosting or if you have site builders or your entire business is about creating websites for your customers, ClickConnect, this one piece, this little feature of the overall solution is very interesting because that's what allows us to connect easily to the core offering of web hosters. So that's kind of how you could evaluate that and how you can see that come to life on connecting back to your core offering. And then from a problem standpoint, well, we know that, so InfraCloud Receptionist is targeted towards the small office, the home office. We define that as companies of 1 to 10 employees. And we think that one of their biggest issues, especially when we talk about their websites, is how do they turn more web visitors into customers? So that's a problem that actually if you talk to small businesses, they're not watching their email 24 hours a day, or they don't have online ordering systems built into their websites. What they do have is they have a phone that's in their pocket, and they would love to have more phone calls from the people who are visiting their websites, whether they have a question, they want to place an order, they want to make a reservation, and so that's how we can solve the problem, and we talk about how that fits into the model. And then finally, does it help you bridge to a new market space? Well, we start off with a really simple website widget that can literally be dropped into the source code of a page in about 30 seconds and become usable. And then from there, you can that user can upgrade into the more robust call management or professional telephony presence. That's interesting for your business because what this allows you to do is it allows you to kind of, I'm going to say dip your toe in the water or give them a small entry point that's very easy to install, very, very easy to get going, and then it can help bridge you into this new industry or this new add-on or this new capability to provide professional telephony for small businesses. So that's an example of kind of how InfraCloud Receptionist can fit into this model, and hopefully it fits into a lot of your models that are out there. So basically at this point, so what I'd like to do is if there's any questions, I'll take a break just for a minute here. And Liam, I don't know if you have any questions coming in yet, but I'd be more than happy to pause and answer some.
Sure. Well, let me just extend the invitation again for people to submit questions if they have any questions about your sort of blueprint or anything about Infratel itself. I can ask a couple of questions that I've written down here myself while I was listening to you. I guess I'm interested in the distinction you make between products that fit your business model and products that don't fit your business model. And I know that you said that if you use the example of the Soho trying to shoehorn enterprise ERP into a SOHO environment, that not working. Are there examples, or is there a chance of a product where maybe a host ought to consider expanding their business model to fit or to accommodate a cool product? Or, I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, I think that, so, I think that if the business finds something that they really want to offer, and it doesn't fit their current business model, you just have to have the plan in place for how you support that as you go forward. So if you're currently a high volume, low touch business, and you don't have customer support to walk people through a complex sales cycle, or maybe you don't have inside sales people to do an assisted sale, if you're going to consider a product that's outside of that, then you also have to consider the impact to your business, and then just have plans in place to kind of march the business forward so that you do have the support and the ability to offer and to support that product line. Does that make sense then? Oops. Looks like we may have lost Liam. Okay, are there any other questions from the audience?
Sorry, David.
There you are.
Sorry, I got a little disconnected there with my audio. So let me ask you this. I guess, do you have a sort of idea about how a host can predict the sort of attach rate of a given product prior to introducing something?
Well, I think that's the magical question right now. What I do know for like our products is we are tracking that at Infratel, so that we're able to. I think the vendor. This is something that the vendor, and through the vendor's experience, should be able to help the hoster with. We know that our attach rate for for example, the Click Connect. We have a small sample size still at this point, under a dozen deployments, but we're seeing attach rates that are pretty significant across the target market, in the order of 20 to 30% as we're running campaigns. So I think that's something that your vendors will have to kind of aggregate and help you understand. I don't think there's like a calculator that can say if it fits into this, you can expect a 2 to 10% attach rate.
Okay. I have a question here from somebody who I believe they're asking specifically about Infratel or possibly ClickConnect. I'm not familiar with the product they're referring to, but I'm assuming it's a sort of competitive product. And they're asking how you are different from Grasshopper?
Well, I mean, so Grasshopper is it's a call, what do we call it, a small business phone system, and from the highest level, basically, InfraCloud Receptionist is competitive, directly competitive to Grasshopper. There are some differences, significant differences is on business model for companies. So Grasshopper is available direct to consumers, direct to small business, as well as direct to through, I think they have an affiliate program where you can do referrals. Whereas InfraCloud Receptionist in our business model is to be directly embedded inside the hoster's sell-through process, as well as the I guess the ongoing provisioning and management of customers. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Another difference is that we have the Click Connect technology that Grasshopper does not have. That allows to really integrate the web presence into the overall call management solution. There's also some other differences under the covers, when you really get down into features and functions. But I think that mostly what's important here is that you can think of, you can even think of InfraCloud Receptionist as a sort of a white label version of Grasshopper that can be added inside of your offerings. And you get much better margins with Infratel. There, how's that for a pitch?
Okay, I think that probably answered the question. Um, so I don't necessarily have any more questions written out myself that you're like, oh, hold on, somebody else just submitted one. Let's say, okay, this is a good question. So I guess the question is, do you have any thoughts on the benefits of testing the market demand by offering add-ons initially only to a certain invited group of customers and possibly at a reduced cost?
Yeah, we've tried that, and it's interesting because I guess one of the problems with an invited group of customers is we all tend to gravitate towards, this may be different for whoever asked this question, but what I've noticed is that when we kind of have a special test group, that test group has been farmed a little bit too much. They're too perfect, and the results end up either being skewed one way or another. Now, it's not to say you shouldn't try it, but if you can take a random sampling, I think even within a random sampling, you could have skewed numbers. But we've done some things with some partners that are basically allow you to do some. Well, just to give you an example, so if we have a partner who isn't quite ready to do the integrations, whether they're so we support Parallels Automation. We have an APS package, for example, and let's just say that they're not ready to add us to their SaaS offerings directly as an add-on through their APS package. We've worked with them to create this registration code capability so that they can offer Click Connect real seamless, real easy through just basically handing out a coupon code exactly like you would hand out a coupon code for, say, Google AdWords. They give those $100 coupon codes. And that's a way that we've been able to, I guess you would say you would break off the add-on and you would test its viability in a way that doesn't really cost you all that time and energy to integrate directly into your systems. I think that might answer the question a little bit. But I think there's different ways. I think testing is great. We have learned, I've been with Infratel only for, I joined in June. And just since then, with the partners that we have on board, like I said, about a dozen of them, we've done some really, really great testing and have revealed some ways that we can sell the product extremely effectively, and we've revealed some ways that just don't work. So I highly recommend testing, and I highly recommend trying to figure out how you either subset the product itself or subset the market in a way that's representative of your whole market.
Okay, David. I think that you had I got the impression that you were sort of pausing to answer questions. You maybe had some more that you could share. I don't know if you want to maybe move on to that. People can certainly feel free to ask more questions if they like as we go on.
Yeah, I mean, so basically at this point it's just a wrap up, and I will send out. What we'll do is we'll make this available. Liam said that earlier. We do want you to consider offering Infratel Click Connect to your customer base. I was just talking about an easy way to do that. Well, here it is. And we have kind of a special offer right now that we're really focused on partner recruit at this point at Infratel, and we want to get more companies representing or adding our add-on into their system. So if we fit into your blueprint, into the way that you look at it, that we're a good business model fit, that we relate to your core offering, that we solve a business problem that your customers will have, and that we help you bridge to kind of a new area of small business telephony. We invite you to become a partner, and if you join before the end of this quarter, we all love the end of quarters, we're giving an offer where you can bundle Infratel Click Connect, our starter subscriptions, free of charge. So you can charge extra for them, but we won't charge you for distributing those. So it might be a good way for some people to kind of take a test. We can do some special programs with you. I've got some partners where I've helped them build landing pages, and they've basically advertised out through their newsletters and through direct emails for this offer, and we'll be more than happy to kind of help you set that up and form it and run a test. This might be a way to figure out if something like Click Connect or the InfraCloud receptionist is something that that could be beneficial in your environment. The other thing, the last piece that I have here, is that every one of you who attended will receive an email from us sometime later, or probably next week once the recording is available. And what we'll do is we're going to put together kind of a, they're called workbooks, but it's basically a 3 or 4 step little guide on basically this presentation that I gave today. And so watch your email. It'll include the embedded webcast and the materials that we have for you. And it'll come from infratel.zoomstra.com. So if you see that, that's from me. And that'll hopefully give you the materials, give you some things that you can share, give you a copy of a blank blueprint that you can kind of fill out for yourself. And then also, if you want to learn more about our solutions, you can go to our website. We're at infratel.com. Or if you just got to have it, and I did such a compelling job that you really think that this can help your business out, feel free to shoot us an email, sales@infratel.com. And we'd be happy to answer any of your questions one-on-one, come up with some creative ideas on how we could do some of those tests into your customer bases. We're wide open. We're a startup company. We're hungry. We think we have a great solution, and we want to work with more and more hosters, and be happy to invite you into the party, as we say. So that's it, Liam. That's all I have, unless there's any additional questions.
Okay, I think that's it for questions, but I don't think that's any problem to end a few minutes shy of the hour. I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and to those of you who submitted questions, thank you very much for doing that. Of course, I'd like to thank David for offering some great ideas around a process that can be really important and really difficult for hosting providers, a really key challenge. So thanks again, and everyone have a great day.
Great. Thank you, Liam. Goodbye.